Cool. Hello, everyone. So that's me when I have a call from my head of security or chief security officer on a Saturday or Sunday, 3 p.m. I'm not on call, and I'm still called, and I'm like, oh, there is a security issue. Great. That's, I guess, an issue. One really huge point, and that will be something I really want to push, is security doesn't scale with siloed ownership. We are not one specific team, one cyber team is not the only one owning everything about cybersecurity. The responsibility on working something and building safe application does not fall off just the people that release the code or build the code. It's pretty much everyone that is involved that will be working across the board. So it's really a shared responsibility for everyone. So the title of the talk was, how can you run a cloud security program without having a dedicated security team? And I think that's really the point that is important. You don't want to release bug in production or security issue in production, but also you don't want to be like, oh, I'm not pushing anything in production until my security team just reviews something, and then you wait 2-3 months because it's Christmas, no one is working for 2 weeks, or I'm French, so 5 weeks. So no one is working, and you are like delaying stuff. So you really want to empower everyone to work on security. Quickly, I'm Jean Virolier. I love whiskey. I'm doing a lot of open source across the board. So as you can imagine, and it was mentioned a bit this morning on open source, like open source is one of the security risks that can happen part of your software. You don't know who own or maintain some of the stuff that you use. And for the maintainer, so for example, myself working a lot on Express and Node.js, you're like, oh, I have 2,000 or 200 different security reports that are currently maybe open. And I'm like, is it really a security issue? It's just a bug, or is it another AI-generated fake security kind of stuff? So Sanofi, really quickly, pharmaceutical company, we are working with a lot of patient data, patient record, 85,000 employees across the globe, and especially we do have pretty much everything you can think of from manufacturing and supply, like manufacturing factories. We have R&Ds, we are working with patient data, we are working also with publicly facing website, internal website. So pretty much everything you can guess that does have IT, we basically can work with that. So really quickly, context and changes that we are facing on a daily basis. So you're a software engineer, you are working on building API, front-end, or any kind of application. And what if you had no security team, but you still have and want to secure your information? For example, like I said, you want to protect your patient records. You also want to enforce specific compliance, HIPAA, or some other stuff. Maybe you want to safeguard your R&D. You work 10 years to create a new drug. You don't want just someone being able to do a select star on your database and like, oh, what's the recipe for the new drug? And you find pretty much everything. So we do have hundreds, thousands of applications, and we are handling especially on clinical information. We are processing a lot of them on a daily basis. Can be R&D pipeline, can be data-related pipeline, or simple API. Like I said, R&D, manufacturing, supply, commercial, and corporate business unit behind that. But I will focus a bit on the accelerator. The accelerator is something we built 3 years ago, currently in 2 cities in France, so in Paris and Lyon. There is around 200 people split between software engineer and data engineer. And technically, let's say for a long time, 0 security engineer, or let's say 1 security engineer, and of course that's me. So you're like, okay, great. You need to work on security. You have 200 people. Some of them may be aware of security. Some of them will be like, oh, security, that's a nice thing, but that's not my role, so I don't care about that. Let's push everything to production, and if there is issue, it's not my issue. So that can be a stuff. So like I said a bit earlier, I'm part of the platform team. There is 5 people really working around that, or at least dedicated to working with the cloud part. Which means that we are working with public cloud, mostly AWS, a lot of managed services, building infrastructure, and we have hundreds or thousands of services, which today, that's something I took like 2-3 weeks ago. So more than 1,000 Lambda, 800 S3 bucket, 500 DynamoDB, 200 CloudFront distribution, and some other stuff. So pretty much not a small stuff a small landscape, let's say, to analyze, to secure when you are speaking about what do we have in our scope? One of our main roles is really to work and monitor, let's say, to help every team to be aware of what they are using, on what they are like providing as metric, but also to help them building and trying to reach really a full CI/CD, or at least a CD part on our side. We are speaking 100 of deployment per week. Specific teams are deploying more than 60 times per week. So that's huge, especially when we are speaking about, we have teams that release 30, 50, up to 60 times a week when we are speaking about regulated systems. So we are speaking on our side what we call GXP. So really a full compliance framework where you need to generate all the documents that you need for compliance, FDA, or other specific authorities. As just a DORA metric, that's the DORA of one team, one of my team, to be fully transparent here. So really, how many times we deploy, how many like change if we are failing on some stuff, like pretty much the good old DORA information kind of stuff. So that's really one of the main points. Which means also that if we want to continue and we want to support this kind of setup for every team, we want to be able to ensure that if there is 2 or 3 releases per day, that it's 2 or 3 releases being safe, that does not put at risk our patient information, our patient data, our R&D pipeline, like all that kind of stuff. And today, I'm guessing everyone is using any kind of cloud provider, could be AWS, Google, or some other stuff here, or their own internal cloud setup. Today, with cloud native solution, there is a lot of different kind of risks from the misconfiguration. Basic one, hey, is my S3 bucket configured as private? You don't want to have your information put publicly, but you don't want also your API to be publicly exposed. Do you have also your database that are configured correctly with the right setup with encryption? Like all this kind of stuff that can be, depending, maybe some rule just for your company, or rule that you need to follow because of compliance, or a big framework that you need to follow, or you are working with specific teams. We know all the issue, or let's say problem, every time we are working with IAM, there is quite a lot of change, especially the last one. If you are using any kind of, let's say, long-term passwords kind of solution, so IAM user, could be great to change and use roles. That way, it's only temporary use, and that could be great. But you want to know what's being used in your system to be aware if there is any kind of risk. Any kind also of runtime threat, from which Docker images are you using, are they safe to use? Also detecting if your API is being used in a different way, or it's changing how it's being used, or any kind of unusual request. And the last one, I was thinking about, and I was saying a bit earlier about specific compliance. So we need to follow quite a lot of compliance. We do have internal rule or standards that are expected like GXP, but we also need to follow specific standards for compliance like HIPAA. We have SOC 2, and some other stuff like GDPR for European, this kind of information. And we want to ensure, we need to be certain that projects are following the right compliance, projects are fully validated, and that someone or a new feature that is being added is not breaking any specific standard that we have to ensure. And especially when you are working in a pharmaceutical company, we don't really have normally the same kind of release or way of working around software. If you are working on a startup or any tech company, you may be able to release 20 times a day. Every time someone merge a pull request, you have an automated pipeline, you go to production almost directly, this kind of stuff. For, let's say, pharmaceutical, or most of the pharmaceutical company, most of the time, every time when you are working with compliance or specific project, we are speaking about one release every 3 months, or maybe one release every 6 months, or in some specific case, one release every year. So you can guess that if you are running any kind of Python project or Python code in production today, or Node.js or Java stuff, if you don't deploy, or if you only deploy once a year, you can guess like any kind of security dashboard showing your security issue in production that will just rise up for the full year, and one day you will fix up, hopefully fixing everything, and then it's done. But really our main point on our side is really, we want to continue to be able to work in a safe ecosystem, but we want to be able to do that without slowing innovation. That's really our main point. We want to be able to keep what today is a standard for software engineering, being able to release after a click on a button or a full automated way at least. But we also want to work with all the team, so that way the team will be aware of the security risk. We want to also on our side to provide the security maturity for everyone. Maybe some teams are more mature and working around security. meaning that we need to be able to provide this kind of centralized visibility for my head of engineering, head of data, CTO, or any other people that may need this kind of information. And the main issue, like the title of the conference was about, or the talk was about, is we don't really have a dedicated cloud security that are working with us, especially on a daily basis. And when we are speaking security, there is not a lot of people or team that embed a full security, a dedicated security engineer on a full time to work on that. So it's maybe you are lucky, maybe someone in the team is operating or they are working with security or worked with security before and I can bring you some knowledge, maybe not, and in that case you're like, oh, maybe ChatGPT can help me or maybe some AI tool can help me, but you don't have really anyone working on that on a daily basis. So, let's see how we can change that. And let's see what we try to put in place to have everyone like to change, keep what we want to do, deploying fast, being able to add new feature, but also how we can, what are the main rules we don't want to break. Click, cool. So on our side, really, security is a full part of the SDLC, so the software development lifecycle, the same way as DevOps moved in the last 10 years to really be linked with the dev part. We are not speaking on not a lot today. Most of the team are like the same team that are building the software, also the one that will be owning the software, pushing or deploying the software to production, running the software, operating if there is any kind of on-call or any issue in production. Security should be the same. And that's really the main point we wanted to do and to build around is security is not different than operating your software in production. It's really, we want to keep the same way of working that we have. So meaning we are keeping the same workflows. We want to empower and give more capability to the developers. And we don't want to change any, let's say, way of working that the team may have put in place in the last 2 years, 3 years, almost now. But we also want to provide this kind of indicator, this kind of KPI to say, hey, your team is doing the right way for security, or your team, there is some issue, let's work on that together to try to solve that. We all know this amazing DevOps kind of stuff. Just to display here on this one that security englobes all the part, the dev part, the ops part. And we'll come back to that schema a bit later. One of the points also is security is really everyone's responsibility. You cannot say, oh, I'm just a junior engineer, or I'm a principal, I don't care about security, someone else will do the job for me, or I'm a data scientist, I don't care about the data, where the data is coming from, someone send me a zip archive with 20 gigabytes of information, I don't care where it's coming from. So you really want to have people and change the mindset of people that would be like around security. So it's also changing process, but it's also especially changing culture for us on people working around, let's say, confidential data or data that could be harmful if they are leaked or accessed by other people. We want people to be aware of that. And we also want to be able to move that, to change that mindset without changing how team operate, without changing or adding a specific time. We don't want team, because they are doing security, to move from 60 deployments a week to 2 deployments every month or something like that. The main idea is to keep the same value, just embedding security part of the process. On our side, really the security came to me directly, and I extended a bit the group with some of the people working on the platform. It's really to try to work with a group of people that already have to maintain capabilities for, let's say, transversal capabilities for the people, so the platform team, and to embed also specific value or specific setup for the security to all of them. The first one is really on our side to have this ownership. So meaning we are providing the right tooling, we are providing the right setup, the right dashboard, the right KPI monitoring for every team by default. Every time a new project is created, every time a new team is being created, by default, we are pulling all information thanks to tagging, thanks to knowing on which GitHub repository they have. Just, it's almost magically arrived. There is a new team. 5 minutes later, there is a new dashboard. Everyone can see that and have this kind of information, meaning that the team don't have to know what would be the security impact on them. They just need to be aware of security. Second part, way of working. By doing that, we don't want to change how the team is working, and especially on our side, I'm also a software engineer. I don't want to give you or to give other team, hey, that's a good way to do security, but I won't try it because I don't care about security. So the main setup on my side for the platform team is really to say everything that we are providing to everyone We also use it ourselves, and most of the time, before even we release it to other people, we are using it for a couple of times, just to be aware, so we're dogfooding our own setup, our own standard, our own way of working. That's really the main part. And the last point is really to work with the team. I'm not aware of every challenges, of every impact on every kind of information that every team needs to access. So the main idea is really to say, hey, let's work together on trying to implement the right level of security. What do you need? Are you working with Slack? Are you working with another tool? Which kind of information do you need, or which kind of added compliance you need on your project? And the last one is really, we don't want to add a new tool. We want to keep the same tooling or the same tooling that every engineer is already using, maybe adding a few sub-features, but it should be almost transparent for all of them. So that's really the main point on what we want to do. And last one, I already talked about that, is the velocity part. I don't want team to work slower because there's security impact or issue. Everything should be direct, should be almost live with the team. They should be aware about everything. And it needs to be fully integrated with the full automation that we have. So, like I said, came on us just because we have trust with the team. We are already owning most of the infrastructure on our side. We are working a lot on automation, handling more than 20 or 30 AWS accounts and some other stuff. And on my side, I work a lot on security for open source purpose, for Node.js, for Express, and some other stuff. So I had already some knowledge about security and building automation around security. I don't like to be awakened by someone calling me at 2 a.m. on a Saturday or on a Sunday, neither for open source or for work. So let's try to find a good way. So just next, continuing about just this kind of new, not software development lifecycle, but a more securized software, securized development lifecycle. That's really the main idea. Our main point, or two main points, is really we wanted to embed every part of the security in each step when people are working or writing code, or just thinking about building a new project, a new API, a new front end, and starting to be aware, oh, I will need to access a specific set of data or a specific set of information. So that's really the main point. So CI/CD, we wanted to also add specific deployment get, or also adding deployment, post-deployment alerting to be aware, oh, maybe something went through a gate. Maybe it was not detected before, but we want to be aware and to also just be aware how long a team is taking time to solve it, and just this kind of visibility. So the first one is really we are working on the plan part. So I will go really quickly on that plan. I think everyone knows that huge image. The part where we are working, or we are helping, let's say, the team to work on. It's really on the plan part, working with compliance validation, threat landscape, and we are also discussing with some people doing a bit more cyber, but that's really the first part. The second one is everything with code. We are implementing with Datadog, and I will come back to that. We want code analysis, static code analysis. We want to detect pre-commit hook, from detecting security, code quality, pretty much everything you can imagine around that. We also want then to move to both the build and, let's say, release, because it's not the best place to put it, but we are also integrating Datadog and other tools to detect that if the code, let's say, is breaking on the static application security or the SCA, we also are scanning everything that will be around infrastructure as code. So we want to know every time someone writes a new line of code, if this line of code will be able to go to production, and if not, we want to be able to provide the feedback to the people even before a pull request is being created, or at least when the pull request is being created. So that way we are blocking that. And everything then, part of the testing. Testing also implement pen testing or other security testing that would be around how can I break your API, what would be the impact of someone being able to access a specific API, and that. And on our side, let's say directly for the platform team, or my role directly, is working a lot more with the monitoring and operating part. So I'm also adding a lot of dashboarding, alerting that would be global, not per team, but for everything I'm handling to be able to detect if there is something that is changing. Let's say on a daily basis, I get 1 million logs. If tomorrow in 1 hour I get 1 million logs, maybe there is an issue. So I'm also able to correlate specific activities across team and detect if something happened on top of that. So Datadog. I think everyone is aware what Datadog is. So I won't be doing a huge speech about Datadog, but really some specific key point on which we are working and using Datadog. So on our part, we were using a lot of different tooling. We were using Prisma, we were using checkmarks, we were using SonarCube, like quite a lot of stuff around different tools. Our main stuff, but we were also using, Datadog for the monitoring part, which was really the main point where we were using it. With this new idea of trying to consolidate the security, to consolidate that everyone should be working and unifying around one tool for security, our main part was to rely on Datadog and Datadog capability on top of that. So that was the main point. We also wanted to have real-time capabilities. If someone deploys something, I want to have a detection part of the pull request in a couple of seconds. I want to be aware with a Slack notification. I want to be pinged. I want to be paged. I want to be aware before something like with a critical vulnerability is reaching production. So real-time capability or near real-time capability are really something that we want on our side. And also, which it's most of the time one of the main caveats with a lot of security tools, I want to be able to customize everything. We don't all need the same capability. We don't have the same issue or the same view on security depending on the project. So we want to be flexible and be able to change specific configuration or tailor specific configuration based on what we want. Whew, that's fast. Whew, but we are closing. So our idea was really to shift from this kind of DevOps where the security is a bit outside to something a bit more like DevSecOps. And I'm not really a big fan of this term. Like across the year, like in 10 years, we'll all be AI DevSecOps, ML something, cost, FinOps something. So let's say we want to grab pretty much everything, and we really want, there is some capability or feature that we really need and want. So everything around SCA and SAST. We want infrastructure as code analysis. That's really the key point on our side. We want the compliance part. Like I said, we are pharmaceutical, so compliance is really important on our side. We want to check those good old dependency of our project. So that's really the main, let's say on the security part, that's not the only part, but that is the, let's say, four main party or four main, let's say, core topic we started with. That's really the important part, which may not be really the fanciest part or the more innovative part, but if today you come to, or you discuss with most of the company, saying, oh, I'm certain that all my projects are fully compliant, the dependencies are up to date, my infrastructure as code, there is no vulnerability or no misconfiguration, and every request is handled properly, sanitized, there is input-output validation kind of stuff. I would love that everyone in the room say, oh, we are all doing that at the basics. That's great. Unfortunately, from my experience, that's not really the case. But feel free to say, maybe I'm wrong. So that's why we really wanted to choose, or we really choose Datadog as a backbone of security part and tooling, just from being able to provide, like by one click, a full overview, like this kind of dashboard, a full overview of everything that we need to provide the right KPI, the right information to be better tomorrow. For example, that's one of the inventory that I screenshot a couple of days ago from some security. Like we can say, it's not perfect. We still have some stuff to remediate, but at least there is no high critical or really, let's say, really important or impactful stuff. Next part will be to try to solve everything that is medium or low. Same way for the compliance, you have a lot of framework. You can create your custom framework, I will come back to that, but you are seeing easily you can see your metrics or your value, your KPI against SOC or specific framework that you may need to have. You can also create some specific policies that's feature / new feature, incoming feature, something that lets you be aware about the tagging part. If you want to enforce tag, being aware what's being done, what's not being done in your cloud landscape and ecosystem. But you can also, let's say you are using other tool and maybe Datadog is not providing that capability. You want to be able to interface the tool you are already using on our side with Datadog. So we are using checkmarks and we want to be able to pull information from checkmarks to consolidate everything part of Datadog and basically being able to use the same process pipeline to ping us on Slack, hey, there is a new SCA analysis somewhere. You need to fix it. We want to fix that. So that's really trying to consolidate everything in one tool and using the capability of one tool, in our case Datadog, to be able to push what we can do with security and to also inform that everyone needs to be aware of the security of their project and being able to fix that. So quite a lot of stuff. We worked on infrastructure as code analysis. We did that in pull request. You can see some huge screen on that. We also worked on trying to work on new vulnerabilities that are deployed. We want to be notified, for example, if something is also deployed, go through the gate, and someone is able to bypass that. So I want to be aware personally of everything that would be critical, and I want to be pinged and paged directly. Some of the team are really filtering that based on pretty much a lot of information. So operation process. The core part on our role is really, we want the team to be able to handle security the same way if it was, let's say, a bug in production. So we want also to be aware of uptime. We want to be aware, like the team need to be aware how long a security issue was in production, and we want to handle that the same way as a bug or your production is not working. We also want the team to be doing the work themselves by triaging every issue, being aware, being paged, being pinged. We want that everyone to be based, or let's say the full security solution based on one tool, the same tool. You can imagine dashboard, monitor, signal, and some other stuff. So that's really trying to condense every tooling in one interface for everyone. And like I said a bit earlier, we also are working with the Datadog integration for on-call, notification, just to have pretty much everything from your phone, or for the people that attended the demo this morning, having a huge AI, when you are like grabbing lunch, you can just discuss with someone and every problem will be solved magically. That would be amazing. And finally, also, we added that security metrics are really expected for each team, the same way as we expect a team to be able to provide information about number of users, KPI, and stuff. We also are working with teams for them to be providing or building their own KPI capabilities around security. We want the team to be aware and to give that information. So on call. Who is on call in the room? Or who is working on call from time to time? Cool, great. Sorry for the people that are on call today and tomorrow. I hope nothing wrong happened. No, on call is really, at least on my side, it's really interesting. But it can be hard if you add 20 more tools or a lot of other stuff. So on our side, really adding Datadog, we are not adding new tool. It's just the same way, the same operating way. There is a bug, there is a security issue. It's being triaged almost the same way. And some people will be paged and pinged. Security issue also is what we included was like, oh, we want to be aware before it reaches production. So normally there is no security issue like being added to production on a normal setup. Which in the last year happened only one time, which is interesting information. Only one person was paged, or two with me after that. But that's nice to say that we try to achieve or to be aware before anything goes to production to be able to fix every issues. And finally, we want also, when we are speaking about security, not just being paged on like, oh, there is a critical dependency issue on your project. We also want to add more context to be aware, oh, is it maybe around, is it a dependency that go to production, or is it just a dev dependency and we can fix that on Monday? That's not the same impact. And with the developer workflow, I said we don't want to change how people interact with security. We want to provide this kind of direct feedback, the same way you are using pull requests and other engineers are looking at your code. We just want to implement direct feedback for security part of the pull request. We want to have people being just notified on Slack or email, but Slack is way better. The security or the dashboard, the normal monitoring dashboard for all the team also should implement some security part. We want team to be aware of some specific scoring or specific KPI. Up until we are then, security is nice, we are safe, no issue with patient data. That would be the next heaven kind of stuff. But we are not yet at that level. So one of the points that also I want to emphasize on that is security is hard. Security, especially today, with a lot more AI, a lot more tools. We are using hundreds or thousands of dependencies on each project. Security is a lot of times seen as a huge spam. You create a new project, you create a React project, you don't use the latest version of React, you have 20 dependable issues in your project, that's a big issue. But also, if you are deploying a new infrastructure, depending on what you want to achieve, then you have this kind of compliance that can be hard. So on our side, it was really, we want to decrease the number of different metrics or different KPI that people need to look at to give them just a really small subset, but that would condense all information. For example, we created one specific, so from the 10 standard compliance, let's say, dashboard or framework that I use are part of Datadog, we were also able to create new feature, only one. It's a Sanofi compliance framework, which basically grab everything that we want to use and provide just one screen for all the teams. So I don't have to discuss with the team, oh, you need to be almost good to this one, not to this one, but to be aware, you need to be compliant almost 100% to this one. If that is the case, great. If not, then please fix it ASAP. And also, we want to work on direct notification on what's important. So we don't want team to be fluid because there is a new low vulnerability or something. We want teams to be on a page if there is critical or high alert. You don't want to be awakened, like I said, Saturday, Sunday, 2 a.m., just because a dev dependency may be an issue if you try to run a specific code by a blue moon kind of stuff. So. And on our side, my role is really to work with the global security team because, yeah, on the title, I lied a bit. We do have a security team, we have like 40 people for 8,000 engineers. So definitely, we don't have one security person really embedded in every team. So that's one of the big change. And on our side, with the platform, the main idea is really to try to support and provide secure solution to everyone, which means if you have a platform team, SRE team, DevOps team, I don't know the name you want to give that, this team also need to be able to provide the right tooling and the right setup for everyone to work in a safe way. The worst part is you start a new project, you use, let's say, one of my tools, and just by using my tool, you already have 20 vulnerabilities somewhere. You're like, oh, I just started, I just used your stuff, it's already broken from the start. That's definitely an issue. We are also working a lot, discussion, talking with everyone. That's always something we all forgot. So just bringing this communication around security is something that needs to be done at scale. And please, we all have security issues. We know I'm not working in your team, in your company, but we all have security issues across the board, from small one to really highest one we don't want to discuss publicly. But at least internally, you should be able to discuss about issue building post-mortem, training people also with vulnerabilities that happen. But that can only be done if and only if teams are, let's say, internally in a public way able to discuss that there was a security issue, and then every team or other team need to learn from that. Did I forget the last line? No. Last per slide, just for the head of people and KPI and stuff. Metrics matter. Please build KPI also on your stuff. You want, as software engineer, or at least on my part, being a software engineer, I want to provide metrics on why I spent 2 weeks working on a specific setup and what did it bring to the company. So on our side, it was really able to provide like this kind of reduction in open source, in open security issue, like improving also misconfiguration with this one. We are seeing a huge gap. I hope to be able to reach 100% one day. That would be an amazing score. We also want to prove and to display that you are able, or your team are able to fix vulnerability way faster, coming from depend about here, but you can pull this kind of information everywhere. So that's the main idea of trying to provide a lot of KPI. You want also to discuss with engineers, like that you improve the developer experience kind of stuff. And also less friction. I know some people, / a lot of people writing code fight with cybersecurity. There's this huge debate on, hey, I want to push my stuff to production. I want to deliver a feature for my business or for my users. And the cybersecurity is like, oh, nope, let's discuss that for the next 3 weeks. And maybe you will be able to click on a button one day. Trying to work together is way nicer. People in cybersecurity are nice people, most of them, there is some exception. So the main idea is trying to build this kind of cross-team, let's say, way to discuss and to encourage people working on trying to be better and to do better next time. On our side, really the main idea with what we build is starting to become really the standard for the full company, for Sanofi itself. Trying to work on reducing the impact, the number of security issues, being able to fix everything faster, and also upholding compliance without blocking project or being released for a long time. Some core lesson, and that's the last slide. If, and I'm saying if you are working or want to work in security, security is a huge topic. It's a huge field. You can work 20 different topics without even seeing everything on security. But you need to start small. Really, the main idea is starting small, trying to fix one issue, trying to improve how it's being done, and then go to the next one. But every time you need to try to provide KPI to justify that the work you did is improving the landscape, improving the ecosystem, and improving what people are doing. And also alerts, you can have a lot of alerts. So trying to reduce the noise that people and team will be facing when working with security could be great. And I think the last point, and that's my last sentence here, we should not be separating security from the developer experience, or from even just writing software. Security is a full part of writing software. People need to think about writing code in a safe way, or being aware that they need to write code in a safe way, because it can impact pretty much everything down the line, from other teams, from other projects, from the full company. And that's the last slide, on time, close to. I will be blogging, posting articles about security a lot more, especially around summer this time. So feel free. It's currently empty. I just created everything, but I will post a lot of stuff from security, from open source project, company related, and I'm also building a lot of open source stuff for security. So yeah, if you like security, follow, like, subscribe, kind of stuff. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Gene. We do have a mic in the middle of the room, so if anyone has questions and wants to get up there and ask them, you can also find me. I have a microphone, as you can see. If not, you're going to have to deal with my questions. So I encourage somebody to ask one up there.
Excuse me.
Yep.
Yeah. I want to say that was a great presentation,
Thanks.
very insightful. My question is, as you stepped into this role as a security champion, what did you find to be the most challenging aspect of working with almost 200 engineers?
Communication. That's really the first one. Like, you can find a lot of different tools, or one tool, or you have a big number of different topics you can work on, from working on dependency security, misconfiguration on your cloud provider, this kind of stuff. But most of the time, the hardest part is convincing other engineers that what they see as a non-big security issue, if you build that across 20 different systems, it starts to become a really huge issue. Especially when you are working with confidential data, patient data, like this kind of really personal information. You don't want to have a leak. You don't want to have external people, or even people part of the same company being able to access those information. You want to build this kind of really safe ecosystem where everyone is aware that maybe they don't know everything about security, but at least they are able to say, oh, I think there is a security issue. I saw the alert. I'm not understanding why we have that. Can we discuss? Can you show me what would be the risk? So having this kind of dual kind of conversation where you are able to work with a team, or at least I'm able to work with a team, and the team is able to come to me and to say, hey, I'm not aware of that. Can you explain? That's really the hard part, because it's changing a lot on how people are working.
Got it. Communication. Appreciate it.
I think we've got time for one more.
Thanks.
Hey, you mentioned Dependabot, and so I assume you use GitHub. I think GitHub is kind of terrible for organizational visibility onto all your repos. Do you agree? Yes?
Yeah.
And how do you deal with that? How do you pipe information out? How do you make it actionable and usable and visualizable?
Yeah, GitHub is amazing for open source. It's hard to just have a comprehensive way to organize repository if you have a lot of projects, a lot of team, and this kind of stuff. So what we are doing, funnily enough, is we are pulling a lot of information using Datadog, but to be able to link pretty much everything on your repository. My repository is linked to a specific team, a specific business unit, or some other stuff. We are using, in a strange way, the GitHub team. So we are rebuilding our organizational, let's say, landscape on rebuilding the GitHub team to try to mimic that. And then we are able to pull all information using CI/CD, the CI pipeline information, this kind of stuff, and to bind that directly with the teams. So we are using the team tag and forcing that to have a match between the team tag of your repository, the team tag of the name of your team, part of GitHub, part of Datadog, and part of your cloud landscape. So we are using that and pulling that together. That way we are able to aggregate pretty much everything. But yeah, that's a lot of manual kind of setup where I was a big user of GitLab before, where you can really organize stuff properly. So we had to try to mimic that using specific feature part of GitHub. So yeah. Cool, thank you.